Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Audie.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
I'm Chris.
And we have a couple of special guests on the show with us today. Bill Hedges from Cosmic Film Studios, and also Josh Caito, who's been on the show a couple of times. Well known in the cosplay community for his awesome cosplays. He shakes his head no, but we know the truth. He's a little bit too modest. So anyway, a bunch of us, let's see. The only ones that didn't go were Seth and Charles. But the rest of us went up to see Bill up in Lyons, Nebraska yesterday at Cosmic Film Studios for something we like to call Cosmic-Con. And so, Bill, tell us a little bit about, if you can, about where you got the idea to set up a studio and start filming sci-fi stuff.
Well, it started a few years ago. I had acquired a few props from actual props from the TV series Lost in Space, and I ended up building a little room in my basement that incorporated those props, kind of a small replica of the Jupiter 2 spaceship.
The interior?
Yeah. And after that, I thought it'd be fun to film a little big net, short film in there. But I realized it would be kind of limiting because it's such a small space and there's only so much you could do in there. So I got the idea to, see if I could find a bigger space, like a big shed or something where I could actually build some exterior sets. And at that point I found out the old Lyons Theater was for sale, and it had been closed for about 30 years, but it had been turned into a furniture store and other businesses. But when I went down to see it, it was just perfect for what I could use it for. And I had nice clear span auditorium, and had air conditioning and heating already in it. So but one of the main selling features for it was I used to work there when I was a kid as a projectionist during high school. So it had that interest to me. That alone would have sold it to me, because I had such great memories there, going to movies there and projecting it.
So was the when you bought it, I take it, since it had been a furniture store, there wasn't much that remained of the original Lyons Theater look? I mean, I'm sure.
No, it didn't, you wouldn't have known it was a theater because they leveled the floor of the auditorium.
I see.
The screen was gone, and everything was taken out of the projection room too, and the lobby was paneled over and completely different. So one of the things, the first thing I did was take out the lowered ceiling, because I wanted to 14-foot high height there, and also pulled down the paneling to reveal what the lobby used to look like. And that was the first thing I did. I wanted to restore that back to the way it looked. So I even found the original doors that were in there and hung them back up, and
really, wow,
tried to get it back to the same color scheme and look of the original theater lobby. But,
do you remember what the first film you saw there was?
Well, it's usually Walt Disney movies. A lot of the live action classics like Swiss Family Robinson and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and well, one of my favorites is The Absent-Minded Professor.
That seems appropriate for you for some reason.
Yeah.
Just because you're all into all these gizmos. And
since that the movie, when I first saw it, I always wanted a Model T, touring car like Fred McMurray had. And it was just a few years ago that I actually did, acquire one. So
yeah, that's a pretty nice looking vehicle there. So you've got that Model T, and you
get a hover conversion for it, so I can actually fly it like he did.
That'd be awesome. So you got the Model T. You got another old truck in there too, right?
Yeah, that was when I couldn't find a Model T way back then. I settled for a Model A, rebuilding that because my grandfather had a '29 Model A pickup. So this was pretty much a frame-up build that Dad helped me with, and I ended up, painting it to like the truck they had on the Waltons, because I always liked that show too.
Now, you've actually managed to get your hands on the original projectors that were used in that theater. Is that correct?
Yes. When it closed in '85, the owner took out all the projection equipment when he sold it, and had it stored in his garage, I suppose, intending to sell it somewhere else, but he never ended up doing it.
Huh.
And shortly after I bought it, he contacted me and wanted to know if I wanted to buy him back.
Huh.
And so I jumped on that, and I couldn't believe that they were still around. And he sold them to me, fairly cheap too. I think he just wanted to see them, restored and saved.
Sure.
Because he's really enjoyed, the theater too. And so I was able to, fix up the projection room just the way, exact same way it was when I was working there. And it was built in 1947. So these are the original 1947 projectors that were.
So you said you restored them. Do they work, or are they just
right now?
I think you froze up a little bit. So what was that?
Oh, I have wired it up so I could actually, one actually runs right now, and I wanted to do the other one too. And, since I got them in there, that gave me an idea for one of my episodes that I want to film. So it's going to have a projection booth in it.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So you've got this old theater now that you've converted into kind of a working production studio, right? Yeah. And so you've started filming your own series, which you call Cosmic Cat. And you and one of your cats are the star of the show. And do you want to tell us a little bit about where the idea came from for the show and what your idea was in producing these episodes?
Well, shortly after I bought the building, the first thing I did was to build the exterior of the spaceship, which I finally had the room to do, at least the partial, main part of it.
And this is the spaceship, the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space. Yeah.
But then I, decided that I didn't want to risk copyright infringement, so I actually made my miniature, a variation of it. But the idea for the series came about was before that I had done a short called Toonces. It was kind of a Toonces little short that had like the Saturday Night Live one, and that was kind of like a proof of concept for me that I could use a mechanical cat, real cat in the series. And the reason I have a cat in there mainly is because I knew it was going to be a long-term series, and I knew I could be around for one of the characters, but I didn't think I could really count on having another, actor, that I could count on for the whole series. So
right.
I knew that I'd always have a cat, so I thought I'd make him the main character. And also I thought, their cats are, so prevalent in videos. I thought that would be kind of a.
It just sort of fits right into the internet.
And
those of us who have.
Also the fact that, Lyons is so far from, the filmmaking community, like in Omaha.
Right.
I didn't think I'd be able to get any actors in coming here, but that kind of changed when other people found out about the studio, and I volunteered to help with it. So I usually the episodes consist of me and my cat, and then I always have a guest star, which will be in one episode.
Right.
Or in Katie's case, multiple.
Yeah, yeah. I was so felt so privileged that she wanted to be in it, and especially when she enjoyed it so much that she wanted to return. So I keep writing her into episodes because she's so good.
Yeah.
She
So
elevates the episodes to make up for my poor acting ability.
yeah. So so there's a picture on screen now of Bill building the exterior of the Jupiter 2 in the soundstage now that the converted theater there. So
And I saw in the news where they're actually testing up wood for satellites to see how it holds up in space now.
oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
They've got one up there already.
Yeah.
Really?
Huh.
Hmm.
Interesting.
So I was kind of ahead of the curve there.
Yeah. Right.
What would you guys
Of course, I
think?
use aircraft, use spacecraft grade plywood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, what would you guys think if you were on a starship and you came to a planet and found wooden satellites?
Wow. Must be from the Driftwood.
Galactic Driftwood.
Galactic
Yeah.
Driftwood.
That's not as bad as a wooden rocket.
Yeah.
The wooden rocket would scare me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, would that be the interstellar equivalent of hearing ding 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 ding?
Probably. Probably.
Little dueling banjos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of a friend of mine I had that we called Bomber John. And I went over to see him to buy a handheld flamethrower for a Halloween costume I was doing. And he's demoing it to me, and he's shooting these flaming balls of fire out of it, and they're landing into a box he has of rocket engines.
Model rocket engines.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God.
Is Bomber John still out of? Has he been arrested yet?
No, but the ATF did come and interview him for quite some time a number of years back.
With a name like Bomber John, I wonder why. Did he give them your contact info, Mr. Purchaser of a handheld flamethrower?
I never heard from the ATF, interestingly enough. So maybe not.
So this made me think of a question for Bill Hedges. You do a lot of your own special effects, practical effects. Has there been any that you've second guessed yourself on because you thought, well, this might be a little dangerous. Maybe I don't want to do this myself in the studio?
Not really, except when we were doing. I had another actor. He was subbing for me as a stunt double for some of the hanging spacewalk scenes, and I was worried a little bit because it was so stressful for him, because it's actually pretty much a hard workout when you're hanging there, for a long time. I mean, between shots would have him supported, but he had a really great workout when he was doing those scenes, hanging from the flying harness for all that afternoon.
I'd be afraid somebody'd hoist me up in that harness and then they'd go out to lunch and leave me hanging there.
Leave you.
Especially if it was Josh. I'm sure that would happen.
So
Yeah, look at him thinking about it.
that's about the only time I thought it was slightly dangerous, but
Yeah. Well, you kind of know what you're doing. So let me ask you this. So you create all these amazing props that we got to see a lot of yesterday and do a lot of photo ops with, which was great. Now you, when you were working, you worked for the Postal Service. And so I don't instantly associate somebody working with the Postal Service to being, sort of an electronics genius, wiring all of these things together and creating all these amazing props and stuff. How did you get into that? Where did you learn to do all that kind of stuff?
Oh, and as a kid, visited my uncle in North Carolina, and he had a garage TV repair business, on the side.
Uh-huh.
He gave me his old Army electronics training manuals and also a BOM meter, and that got me interested in electronics. And after that, I became a electronic hobbyist, and I'd even take apart old TVs for parts and stuff I'd find, and that got me interested in electronics.
Yeah, well, those old TVs can be dangerous. They can hold quite a lot of amperage in those, can't they? In the capacitors and stuff, you have to be really careful.
Yeah, I didn't get shocked too much.
Too much.
Too much.
enough to respect them.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Well,
that's always kind of kept me out of the back of those old TVs, just because of the, risk of death just from touching the wrong things there. And you've actually just recently bought a couple of old TVs like that you're planning to restore, right? That's for upcoming episode you're planning, or?
Yeah, I do have a collection. I had a collection of some old 50s TVs, but I wanted to do a time travel episode where we go back to 1967. So, and it involves a TV repair shop set in that time too. So I bought a couple of 60s televisions that I want to address the set with.
So are you going to hook them up so that they actually play images then, or?
Yeah. And I'll even have to make a fake 60s program, that would be shown on them too, for copyright reasons. So
right.
That's kind of fun in itself. Makes some
nice
cheesy, sitcom or Western or something I can have playing on, or commercials.
Yeah. Now, Chris, I noticed you were kind of enamored with some of the old computer gear that Bill has acquired recently. You want to talk about
he
some
had
of that
a
stuff?
really old mainframe type system that he's collected some parts of. And I'm actually curious, Bill, could you tell us where you found those?
Yeah, I always liked the Burroughs computers because the control consoles from the Burroughs 205 system were used on the show Lost in Space. And I ended up actually acquiring one of the faceplates from one of those units from another collector. And I made some replicas of the other two that I needed for the controls console. But then somebody alerted to me that there was a Burroughs 220 control console that came up for sale on eBay. And they use that a lot too on different shows, and also on Lost in Space. Mm-hmm. I figured it'd go way beyond what I could afford, but I ended up putting like $1,000 bid on it, just so I could follow it. And at the end,
no one else bid on it, right?
At the end of the week, nobody else bid on it, so I ended up with a Burroughs 220 mainframe control console. And I had to go to Chicago to get it, and he wanted to know if I wanted the rest, some of the rest of the components to it also. So I ended up getting a couple of tape drives and a controller for that.
Now,
and
probably
they are heavy and big.
More than you could fit into your truck, I imagine.
Yeah, so I had to get a moving company to move, the bigger control cabinets back.
So
that was probably only about a fourth of the whole computer, but that's all they had.
Right. So are you planning to use that for upcoming episodes, or are you just going to leave them as they are just for preservation's sake, or?
I'll pretty much leave them as they are. This control console here, I'll probably wire it up so the lights flash. I won't do anything to alter it permanently, but I do want to put it up so the lights randomly flash.
Huh.
That's the reason they used these a lot for computers, consoles, and movies is because, you know, they had a lot of moving parts. The reels would turn, and
Right.
you had a lot of flashing lights, which made the computers look like they were actually doing something, unlike, you know, plain black box, which is,
Right.
doesn't suggest any activity.
Right. Huh. Very cool. Yeah, and so that Linda had just shown some pictures there of one of your more recent props you've created. You managed to acquire a dental X-ray machine, right?
Yeah, that was given to me by a classmate of mine who was a retired dentist, and it was an old 70s version that, you know, had been using for a long time. And I figured I could turn that into a prop. So I'm using that as a part of my interdimensional portal projector.
For an upcoming episode?
Yeah, I want to film this fall.
Nice. I was hoping we could use it to, you know, maybe X-ray or repair Linda's broken wrist.
Yeah.
Get her back into shape, but she wasn't too up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, so you've got the studio there, and you do a lot of your own stuff. There's a little pod that you've created, a space pod that was fun to see and get to interact with. But you also provide studio facilities to other directors or producers that are making small, you know, independent films or whatever. Can you tell us a little bit about some of that stuff that you have going on?
Yeah, the first time it happened was Matthew Keister contacted me, wanted to know if we could film a short there called the Return of the Robo-Mummy. You know, so I said that'd be fun, and so they came out and did that for a couple days, and decided to turn the short into a feature. So he came back the next year and expanded it, and you know, hopefully that, you know, might be out this year. But it's kind of a cheesy, you know, B type, you know, 50s looking, you know, sci-fi movie. And after that, you know, other you know, filmmakers asked me if they could use the studio to film you know, some scenes there too. So you know, I enjoy helping others. You know, I even had some high school kids that, you know, from Lyons that used it, you know, used you know, for filming a project too. And so that's was kind of nice because it, you know, allowed me to network with other, you know, filmmakers, and, you know, find out more about the, you know, Nebraska filmmaking community around here. And also people have volunteered to help me with my films too. So it kind of works both ways.
Right. And you provide that service free to people that want to come in and use your studio,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I never wanted to turn into a business. I'd already retired, and I didn't want to get involved in another business, and it
Sure.
probably wouldn't make much money anyway. So it's just fun to keep it as a hobby.
Yeah. Right. So there was a picture of Katie Otten there. She played the voice of a raven in something you were filming recently, right?
Yeah, this was an episode I'm going to film this summer. So I had to build an animatronic raven because, you know, for this episode, this would be the closest thing to a guest star speaking part in it. And
right.
So Katie graciously did the voiceovers for the raven. I already have that recorded. So this is something I'll be filming this summer.
Nice.
Kind of a flashback episode, how the Will character met Penny. So it's kind of done in the genre of a rom-com.
Oh, I see.
Because every episode I like to try a different genre.
Mm-hmm.
And the episode I want to film this fall is going to be a film noir, you know,
style
episode.
Nice. Are you thinking of branching? I mean, so you got this sci-fi series. Is that kind of the general genre that you want to be in, or?
Yeah, it's mostly sci-fi, but you know, there's occasions, you know, where, you know, like in a flashback, go back to Earth, so it's not all set in space.
Right.
And it's I get bored just, you know, doing the same episode, you know, every time. I like to try different things, you know, try different openings, experiment, you know, make every episode different, have a different feel to it.
Right. Yeah, and I love the fact that you've got that huge green screen section there in the studio. So we're showing a picture there of some of us posing in front of the green screen. And I'm kind of nervous as to what Josh might do with some of those photos at some point. Never know what to expect. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Now, Chris, this was your first trip up there.
Yep.
And so as a first timer, what were your thoughts?
It was kind of remarkable in the amount of different types of sets and versatile that you managed to make that space, Bill. So it's not a huge studio by any means, but you've managed to make every kind of inch of it work. Every space is somewhat functional, whether you have to move walls around, or you have a green screen to work with. And I thought that was great. There isn't a space or a part there or anything that really goes to waste. I thought that was pretty unique. I thought it was pretty awesome. I'd recommend any of my friends to go check it out for sure, because there's so much to see there. There's a story behind almost every set, and I think it's pretty great.
Yeah. And you also bought the building next door, which for a while you turned into sort of an art gallery, right?
Yeah, I let people use it for an art gallery. When I bought it, I just bought it because I thought if I ever wanted to expand, it'd be handy to have it right next door.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I let people use it for an art gallery.
Yeah, and there's a picture of Jenna with a giant sword. as you might expect, Seth. Does this surprise you at all?
Not at all.
A pretty big bread knife there.
Yes.
Is that sword for one of your episodes, or?
No, this was I built this medieval set for Katie Otten, and she was doing some a fantasy scene for her Inner Worlds series. So build a medieval set there, and then these swords were actually my son's. He had a collection of old fantasy type swords like that.
Huh.
That's an awesome sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been surprised if Jenna wouldn't have picked that up. I'm surprised she didn't try and carry it away.
Yeah. Now I will say of the whole thing, Jenna was a little bit saddened by the inability of her to go through the little secret bookcase through the access hatch into the basement like she did our first trip there. So as if you're watching us on Zoom and you see Bill's background, there's a bookcase behind him, and he can pull a little lever there, and part of the bookcase swings open. And there's a secret ladder that takes you down to the basement behind. There's a stage in his theater that he has there. And the first time we went there, Jenna had no idea where that ladder led, right? He could have led into a basement of doom for all she knew. And she just charged right ahead. And before we can even say, Jenna, wait, where are you going? She's head's disappeared into the hole. So, you want to tell us about creating that? I think you said you created it for your granddaughter or something, or?
I originally built it because when I bought this old display case, I had to cover up a little closet under the stairs, so I wanted to leave access for it. So I fix it up with a hidden door in there, because I always liked the old movies, like in the 40s or 50s, where they had a hidden door. You'd pull a statue or a book to open up the bookcase. So I thought it'd be fun to put that in there. So
yeah,
I always this is an old house, so I always like to put in features like that.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because Jenna's like showing it to Aaron, and she's like, "Yeah, we got to have one of these in our house." And Aaron's like, "Nope." And Jenna's like, "Oh yeah." So I fully expect there to be a secret door. There's Jenna. So she did find a ladder that led up to the top of this area. Now this is at Bill's house. This is in his backyard, and so he's got like a little area. I guess there's like a table under there. I think, Bill, it's like a picnic area maybe or something. And then he's got
kind of a pergola and
pergola structure,
second floor up there. And I built that second floor there for the kids when they were younger, so they could go up there.
Yeah. And
Or, you know,
so
the
Katie
kids,
Katie
Jenna.
Otten pointed out the ladder to Jenna. Boom, she's gone. Right up top. So yeah. So yeah, it was a fun trip. There's so much to see and do there. And then so that gallery, you said it was a gallery for a while, and now you've kind of redone it again, and now you've got like some dioramas in there, and you want to talk about what you're doing with that?
The gallery kind of ended with the pandemic, so the last year, since I couldn't film either, I started working on dioramas, mostly from scenes from the series Lost in Space.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are kind of big, so I ended up I couldn't really display them at home, so I brought them down here and fixed up kind of a gallery for my dioramas. Yeah. So I pretty much got that filled up just from working on them and the other models last year.
And then
sometimes Lost in Space fans that like to stop through Lyons and see the dioramas, and also the spaceship next door.
Right.
And I'm also in the back there, I'm working on a model railroad layout too. That I've always, this big type of layout that I always wanted to have.
Right. Right.
So what do you make this out of? Because do you do a lot of 3D printing to do those, or do you hand make them out of foam and then paint them?
No 3D printing for the dioramas. They're mostly made of from scratch, but I use a lot of model railroading materials. The plants and the brush, and but a lot of it's just carved out of wood. But the figures, they were actually custom made by a friend of mine. The 1/6 scale figures, but I'll also use HO scale figures that I'll repaint and reposition the arms or whatever. And so I usually stick to 1/6 scale, 1/24, 1/87, even M scale. So I can use existing materials that make them easier to build. And some of them I'll use models too that I have, but I modify.
So you'd mentioned doing some kit bashing, where you buy different model kits and then mix and match parts to kind of create something new and unique.
I did that with my derelict spaceship for my movie too. It did have some 3D printed parts on it, and I don't know anything about how to set that up. So fortunately, I had my son who is my IT guy. He does the 3D printing, and I just give him the files to show what I need. He does his magic.
Huh. Yeah, Seth's into 3D printing big time, doing a lot of characters from Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And have a good time learning how to do that, and then painting the resulting models. And he's got some amazing stuff there.
Yeah. Well, here's the star of my series, one of them, Judy.
Is that Penny the cat?
Yeah. Originally, I started out with Penny. She was a black cat I got to Humane Society. And when my other cat, passed away, I got Judy. I wanted her to be black so she could double for my other cat if I needed her, because they both have their different specialties. Penny's.
And you also have black cats that you have animatronics for as well, right?
I use I have some just plain stuffed cats, for long distance shots or for lighting, and also I made a animatronic cat that's radio control. So anything that my real cat can't do, then I'll bring in my other cat. And if I need her to open her mouth or turn her head or something, or also I have some paws that can be worked if I just need a close up of her doing something with her paws or holding something.
So did you build the entire animatronic stuff for that?
What was that?
So for the animatronic cat, did you construct the animatronics yourself, or did you buy something that was already there and just kind
I
of turn
took
it into?
a toy cat that has motors in it, and I took all that out, and then I used aircraft type servos, to work everything,
I see.
and just use a radio, aircraft type transmitters and receiver for that.
Huh.
And that it doesn't look like a real cat, but my series isn't meant to be a serious
Right.
movie.
I could watching the episodes and seeing the very obvious cut between the animatronic and Penny. I can't use a word other than charming. It's just
Right.
very
Yes.
charming. Like
Yes.
you watch that and you're like, well, I just love that. Like it's fantastic.
Series is meant to be a little bit like the 60s type of TV series where it's not meant to be realistic. A lot of series in the 60s you'd see obvious painted backgrounds there, and also a little bit like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. They had Salem, who was a hybrid. They used the puppet controlled cat, but then they also used a real cat for long shots of him walking.
Huh. Yep.
I'm always impressed with the amount of ingenuity and craftsmanship that goes into the things you've built. And this is more of an outsider question, but as somebody who's always been fascinated with robotics and puppeteering, and I grew up with the Muppets, and occasionally would see some behind the scenes where they would have the skin off the puppet and you could see all the servos and mechanics. How do you even go about getting started learning how to do that stuff?
It's mostly just self-taught. Of course, now with YouTube you can learn a lot of things from that. It's my first cat I made for my Toonses series. It was really crude. It was like almost like I could open his mouth and turn his hand, but it was just hand operated. Like a ventriloquist dummy. So
given
they keep improving as I go along.
Oh, that's cute though.
Bill, if you had an infinite budget and time to craft whatever you wanted to, what is this would be the thing I would make if cost wasn't a limiting factor and I had the time to do it.
Well, I'd love to have a more professional looking cat, animatronic cat. And I actually checked some Hollywood prop houses to see if they still had cats. You could have bought a cat from Scary Movie, but they were really expensive. And some of them you can just rent, so that's why I ended up building my own. Because they would actually, I think for Salem and Sabrina, the cat cost about $100,000 to build.
Wow.
Holy.
Wow.
And that was back in the 90s, so I'm sure it'd be way more expensive now.
Yeah, but on the positive note, you could probably control it with your cell phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I also like to keep all my effects practical too. I don't like to use CGI, mainly because I'm not good at it, and it's just I just like the real models, because that's the kind of thing that got me interested in filmmaking was shows like Star Trek with their models and special effects that they use. So when I did my series, I wanted to make sure it was all practical effects and real miniatures. And afterwards, when you're done with it too, you actually have the miniature you can display. Whereas with CGI, you don't have anything afterwards.
Yeah.
I almost think they'll age better as time goes too, because you can look at at bad CGI from the 90s, and you watch it today and you're like, oh,
It does.
this
It gets
is
worse.
yeah, this is almost unwatchable. But practical effects, I mean, they just stay there. The only thing you have to compare them to is the real object you're trying to emulate, and if you do a reasonable job, that's always going to age well.
I mean, practical effects are seeing kind of a renaissance now with more people.
I think they're doing good hybrid work with it, particularly on The Mandalorian. They've used a lot of practical effects and some light touches with CGI, and I think they found a good sweet spot with that series to where you could tell not everything's computer generated, that they built some models to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that's I think really cool about the Mandalorian series is the way they're filming a lot of that, where they have like basically a theater screen in the round, right? And the actors are in the middle of that, and they can display whatever planetary background scene on that screen that totally envelops them, so that, you know, as the actors are in there and they've got their helmets on, they get the glare off of the helmets from the scenic lighting of the planet or wherever they happen to be, that is much more believable and realistic than if they were to try to do it with CGI. So that's pretty cool as well. Have you thought about doing anything like that, Bill, where you have like a screen of where you can display a panorama on it and have actors in front of it? Or are you just mostly green screen?
That'd be way too sophisticated for what I could do.
Yeah, right. Well, the green screen works pretty well. I mean, I've seen.
Yeah.
So you've got your episodes that you filmed are out on YouTube, and people should just look up Cosmic Film Studios or Cosmic Cat or.
No, it's the website is cosmicfilmstudio.com.
Okay. And from there they can link
that
to
has
your
links to the movies on YouTube and everything.
I see. Nice.
With the con season starting up again, or cons starting up again, are you going to be showing any of your episodes at cons again?
At cons?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't have any plans for that. I do take them, show them at film festivals, especially local ones. I enjoy seeing it with an audience, to actually get that feedback from them to see if they, like the parts that I, hope they will.
Now, there's an upcoming film.
They're starting to open up again, the film festivals, the local ones. So I have entered in a few of them, this year.
Well, which you were telling me about one the other day that you're going to, I think, in the fall film festival. Where's that?
There's one in Seward, the Flatwater Film Festival. That's a new one that just started.
Okay.
And I've entered it in ones like Film Streams and the Sioux City International Film Festival. I don't do too many that I can't actually go to because it's it doesn't seem too much, to be much of a point to that.
Yeah.
To get get an award, nothing else. Don't get to see it with the audience.
Right. Yeah, and I think we saw one of your films at the Prairie Lights Film Festival a couple of years back. I think in Grand Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Prairie Lights? Is that still a thing? Do they still?
No, it ended last year. Well, they didn't have it last year, but the year before is the last year.
I see. Huh.
But the one that's kind of filled in that void now is the Flatwater Film Festival.
Okay.
It's a free one, and it's for Nebraska filmmakers.
I see. Are there a lot of filmmakers in Nebraska?
Yeah, there is a pretty good filmmaking community in Omaha and Lincoln.
Okay. Huh.
And mostly independent filmmakers, and then there's also some film companies too. They'll do documentaries, commercials. Not too many feature filmmakers, but
Are you
occasionally get some that are filmed here.
with the stuff you're doing at your studio? Are you basically the tourism board for Lyons?
Well, it's kind of nice that, you know, it has attracted some media attention. In fact, I even had a documentary filmmaker come from Australia to film a segment for his documentary.
Really? Wow.
Been working on a documentary about people who are saving 35 millimeter film and projection equipment, because he's a projectionist in Melbourne, and he's been working on this documentary. And he last couple of years ago, he came to the United States, you know, to do interviews with people like Douglas Trumbull and Leonard Moulton. Went to Smithsonian to interview people, and of all places, Lyons was his last stop.
Huh.
He found out about me because I was on the Lost in Space podcast, and he was also a Lost in Space fan.
Uh-huh.
After listening to that, he found out I had the theater too, so that's what brought him into Lyons.
Yeah.
So he's editing it right now, and it should be out this year too.
So you have those film projectors in the studio there. Do you have actually movies that you can run through them to play that fit the projectors?
I do have you know, several cans of reels of film, but I can't really project them very far because of the wall that was built there out just outside of the projection booth. So, so
do you have to do something?
I do want to work the projectors into an episode. I can't let them go to waste.
Right. Do you have to do something special to protect those films, keep them from aging, or? Just
you know, climate controlled. The older films like nitrate film, you have to be more careful with them because they could break down, but I don't have anything that old.
I see.
And, you know, they can deteriorate, the nitrate based films, and, you know, even spontaneously combust.
Right. Yeah, because I'd heard about the studios were having problems with some of the really older films where they were degrading or even causing fires. So yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Well, Audie, what do you think? This was your second trip up there, right?
Yeah. I have no words. Yeah.
Like a kid in a candy store?
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I was just walking around enjoying things.
Just absorbing it all.
Following the tour.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your favorite part, do you think? Was it the old cars, the diorama?
Now the interior of the spaceship.
Yeah, the Jupiter 2 in the basement there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So your basement, let's talk about that for just a little bit, because that's amazing in and of itself. So you've got one section of your basement, you've got the interior of the Jupiter 2, and then another part of the basement, you've got your theater where you can do screenings of films, right? And then you've got that Hollywood diner. And so how did you come up with the idea of creating these different spaces? What led you to do that, especially like the diner? What made you think, well, I think I'll put a diner in this section?
Well, I've always collected antiques, and I started, collecting things like pinball machines and, jukeboxes, and, some other things too that I didn't know what to really do with. But then, all seemed to coalesce. I thought all those stuff would be used in a diner. So I kind of built a room in the basement to resemble a diner, so I could actually, make all those things look like they belong there. And then I just kind of expanded it to other diner things. Diners, and I always thought, I could always film there too if I needed a diner set.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed by the fact that you've got that old black and white tube TV in there that you can turn on, and it actually displays Walter Cronkite. Yeah, talking about one of the moon launches. So how did you how did you do that where you're projecting that film? Is that like saved on a DVD somewhere and you're just feeding the video into that, or?
Yeah, I was always a big fan of the space program, especially in the 60s with the Gemini launch. So I found that there are on YouTube full length coverage videos of the launches, and so I just downloaded that and put it on a VCR tape, which I can feed to the old TV then through the twin leads.
Right. Huh. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. So so there's a picture of us in the diner there watching one of the countdowns with Walter Cronkite. And then you've got some other fun props there. I know you've got a newspaper that talks about the clock tower from Back to the Future needing to be repaired or replaced or something like that. So that's kind of fun. Is that something that you found somewhere and ordered, or did you print that yourself? Or
I got that online, and it's of course, Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies, so I had to incorporate a few items from that.
Sure.
Since that was set in '55,
nice
scenes.
See,
And-
I like the pinball machine he's got in there.
Yeah.
And that's
There's
a working pinball machine, right?
Yeah, Aaron was playing it.
So did you get that in working condition, or did you repair that?
I have a couple of them down there. The mechanical one's working right now, but I have to finish restoring the Close Encounters one.
That's
I was working with, originally bought it, but had a power supply burnout, so I'm restoring that right now.
That is amazing.
And he's got a working jukebox down there. In fact, Jenna and Audie, we got a video of Jenna and Audie rocking out to some of the music from the jukebox yesterday, which is really fun.
I did enjoy that old technology that actually still works, or it works again.
I always liked the 50s jukeboxes because they had a visible mechanism where you could watch the records actually being changed. When they went to the 60s, then they enclosed everything because they needed more space for the title cards. But this was actually the very first jukebox to play 45 RPM records.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, 40 years from now, no one's going to be able to restore an iPad and get it functional.
No,
It's very true.
But it's also nice that vinyl's still around. You can still buy new 45 RPM records.
Yep.
Yeah, in fact,
I could go
testing CDs right now, the vinyl.
I could go to Target down the street for me, and they have a whole section of brand new LPs for purchase.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's one of those technologies that it just
hangs on.
Hung on and kept getting updated.
Yeah.
It's not too hard to get a turntable that has USB connectivity. And
right.
I had up until a couple years ago, I had close to 2,500 albums in my house.
Wow.
And there's just something, again, it's one of those audiophile things where I can tell you that I don't know that there's a distinct quality difference between listening to CD or listening to the record, but it's the process, taking the record out of the sleeve, putting it on the turntable, clean it off, setting the needle. So it's a romanticism, but I ended up parting with my record collection with some exceptions. I still have about 100 LPs, but I got rid of the vast majority of them because they were just taking up a lot of space, and I started collecting Transformers instead, and now that's taking up all space.
Yeah, you don't see other stuff like
the artwork on the covers are always nice too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you don't see that kind of renaissance for stuff like 8-track tapes or cassettes, interestingly.
Well, you never say never, because people might be restoring iPad.
Well, that's true.
Things they grew up with. I like to restore things that I grew up with.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my folks had a station wagon with an 8-track player in it, but it was broken, and it would only play a single song, and they only had one 8-track in the car. And it was Johnny Cash, A Boy Named Sue.
Oh,
and they would
God.
just stick that in, I think just to irritate us kids as we were driving around, and it would just repeat over and over and over
Oh.
again. And they would use it as a threat. You kids settle down back there. We're putting Johnny Cash in.
Oh, that's bad.
So yeah, so I have kind of a mixed relationship with 8-tracks, but
Yeah, I grew up with cassette tapes, and then we moved into CDs when I was a teenager. But I don't want to go back to those. Like, I'm not nostalgic for those. Whereas I might give vinyl a try someday for certain favorite albums.
I do not.
I share that stuff. I feel the same way.
Yeah. How about you, Charles? Any particular love of vinyl or?
Yeah, or do I miss the what do you call that kind of wobble sound from tapes?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. and knowing that at one point that music sounded a little different, was a little quicker.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charles doesn't know where to go.
Yeah, I've always.
I'll tell you, I went. This just maybe this interests some people or not, but when I was just out of college as an engineer, and I worked for a small firm, it seemed like we had there was a phase where people wanted. They bought record players. And it was just kind of an odd phase where people wanted their floors stiffened. So
that they could dance or whatever without knocking the record
right.
out.
And it was very short-lived because it was just like right there. I think it was right there on the cusp of CDs taking over.
So being an architect, they reached out to you or your firm.
You were an engineer. Yeah.
How do we strengthen the floor here so people can dance?
Stiffen it up. Exactly.
Knock the needle around.
And so I don't know if anybody ever finished the project of stiffening their floors or getting a better situation,
Yeah.
But every so often I laugh to myself, there's got to be somebody that did.
Right.
Like right before the technology changed on them.
One of the big problems with early CDs, though, is that they skipped too.
Yeah, they did.
Like that was the first digital music, but those skipped all over the place.
Yeah.
I remember having a Discman that had 10-second anti-skip in it. Yep. And that was primo technology, man.
Yep.
Yeah. And now you can put, entire collections on a little memory stick and carry it around in your back pocket and not have to worry about it.
Now it just all comes from the internet. It's
right.
Now it's just your phone.
Right.
And we have T-shirts and hats and cups and all kinds of cool stuff.
What was your favorite part, Linda?
Watching everybody run around like crazed weasels.
Getting photos and...
I mean, like excited kids, happy to...
Oh my God.
That was fun and cool.
Well, it was nice.
It was like letting them releasing them into a playground.
It was nice to be able to cosplay again because it had been so long since we dressed up. And so I know a number of us dressed up there and we had some friends even come in from out of town. Steve Bosserdert, a friend of ours, came in from Minneapolis, and Julie Thomas came up from Kansas City, and we all kind of drove up to Lyons to spend the day up there with Bill and tour that fantastic place. And we got to cosplay. You can see some of us. There's me and my mad scientist, and Linda was a River Song from Doctor Who, and of course Josh does his fantastic 10th Doctor cosplay, and Julie, she's cosplaying as Missy, also from Doctor Who. And then Steve back there in the background, he did a pirate, and kept telling him he's got the great basis for like an airship pirate if you wanted to get into steampunk. And then Katie's got her great steampunk outfit on. So yeah, it was great to be able to do that and see friends and kind of get together as a group again, and nice to see that. So gives you a good feeling.
I had mentioned to Julie by the end of the day that this felt the most like being at a convention for over a year,
Yeah.
surrounded by friends goofing around in costumes, stopping to take a bunch
Yeah.
of pictures. And
Right.
by the end, stopping briefly to just shove food in your head. It
Yeah.
didn't even matter what I was eating. It's just, I need to get food in me. And then
Right.
powering through another few hours. And, by the end of the day, I think we're all just tuckered out and had a lot of fun. It was nice doing something that felt relative, and I know this is kind of funny, but relatively normal.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Relative.
yeah, being out with friends and
Yeah.
exploring a bit.
Right. Right. Well,
Yeah,
and
the thing I was missing the vendors and the panels.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Josh could have did a panel on Doctor Who.
Yeah, easily.
I've done several panels and they all run the same way, which is I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. We're going to make it up once we all sit down.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to do panels at an upcoming Cosmic Con.
Well, Josh was explaining some of the props he was making. That was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Mine are mostly, they need to look good on camera from about 5 to 10 feet back, but when you get up close and start looking them over, they tend to lose some of the appeal.
No, that's all you need is for him to look good on camera.
Yeah. Well, and the nice thing about going to Bill's place there is, you actually can get up and do a little bit of hands-on with the props too sometimes. And it's nice to be able to do that, kind of touch and feel some of that stuff. And, especially like those giant old knife switches, those are just awesome to kind of play with and get your hands on. So,
Bill got to pull the levers and push the buttons.
that's right. That's what it's all about. There I am.
Without getting kicked out or banned.
Right. For a change. Yeah. Yeah. So it was great fun. And then kind of in keeping with that theme yesterday, after we got back to Omaha, a bunch of us got together on the veranda here and we watched a 1959 campy sci-fi movie called Prince of Space. I guess it originally started out as a series, right, Josh? You kind of looked it up. What?
So I did. It was, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a Japanese film series that they'd done 3 or 4 films of, and it has the same characters basically in every movie, but they condensed it down to a single film for American audiences. And I actually have a picture of Bill enjoying the movie, which will tell you exactly how good this film was.
Busted.
He had a long day.
I had a long day. You guys forget that I get up at like 5:45 every morning to take care of my dogs, and my day just goes on from there. So by 11 or 12 o'clock when we're watching this show, I'm ready to call it.
I would not be surprised if I'm the only one in that room who even remotely enjoyed that movie. But I enjoyed it because it reminded me a lot of
Under the Skin.
No, it's got God, that movie. It's very much Japanese sci-fi. It reminds you a lot of Power Rangers, where it's the same recycled plot over and over and over again, but the costumes were hokey but in a really creative, like 60s sci-fi kind of way. Same thing with the spaceship designs, and I don't know, there's just something about it that hits a sweet spot for me where I'm like, oh yeah, sure, the plot is terrible and the movie runs about 45 minutes too long, but I would probably watch it again and enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's good feedback. I'll have to watch it now.
Oh, it was
Early
funny.
you see a lot of like early sci-fis like that, and it was just, people hadn't figured it out. So there was a lot more experimenting going on. You
Right.
could do these space movies with models, and it was, and you didn't, there was no CGI you had to add. So whatever you could make work, you made work.
It was
It
basically
like-
Ben running around in long underwear.
Yeah, I think one of the most memorable part of the movies for me, and I'm sure Seth, you'll remember this as well, because I thought you were going to fall off your chair laughing, was when the Prince of Space is flying to attack the the base of the villain, and they're shooting him with these like cardboard tubes that are supposed to be like guns sticking out of pillars or something, and they shoot his ship, but I think they hit the support wire and the ship just drops like a rock. And
we got him.
yeah, it was that was like a classic mistake. I don't think it was supposed to happen that way, but they just left it in because it worked.
The throne room with the cage that dropped down from the top, and they said, well, you know, what they call it,
a griddle.
a griddle. Yes. Yes, they had him trapped on the griddle, and they were going to cook him, and then these guns came out from the walls. Like it wasn't even a small 2 or 3 guns I could understand. They had like 30 of these guns pop out of the walls, all aimed at this. And I remember I remarked at the time, it's like, how many people have they had to kill in this throne room that they have equipped like this?
Right.
So there's a movie I want to see, is why did they put in all these guns?
Yeah.
Right.
Just in
How bad a shot are they that they need like 30 some guns in order to take out one or two people?
What did they have to kill in there?
The most interesting fight for me, so the home planet, and I can't remember the name of it, the Prince of Space is flying towards the evil Emperor's home, Crankor. He's flying towards Crankor to rescue these Americans, well, not American, these Earth scientists that have been taken captive, and there's a giant colossus outside the Emperor's castle, and it's an incredible I can't even begin to describe the makeup effects they put on this thing.
It's a space ogre.
Yeah,
Space ogre.
It looked like it melted, but they had the model, this practical effects spaceship flying around this obviously clearly just guy in a suit off a wire, and oh god, that was it. And
space ogre.
Yeah, and just watching the tiny spacecraft fly around this thing again, they're doing their best with what they have, but there's just something about it where I'm like, I just love it. It's incredible.
That's some charm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Charming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's still I think there should be a lasting place for the classic sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think
there's a place for the classic books.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, and I think Bill, you mentioned you have some classic sci-fi stuff that you collect as well, right?
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of the cheesy B sci-fi movies from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, do you have a favorite? I mean, other obviously Lost in Space, but
well, Lost in Space is my favorite TV series, and Star Trek, the original one. But
sure.
I like a lot of the of course the bigger budget ones like Forbidden Planet. But the Ed Wood ones too. They're kind of fun to watch.
Now,
in fact, my movies would probably play pretty well back then.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
Something just dawned on me. I think I know why I like Prince of Space, and honestly why I love watching the Cosmic Cat films. There is a level of imagination and wonderment that goes along with these, where a lot of sci-fi today in particular gets bogged down in, well, this would technically be feasible, and
Yeah.
this is a natural evolution of the human process. And it's very bleak and dismal, a lot of current sci-fi. And when I watch Cosmic Cat or Prince of Space, it's just, hey, imagine, drop your preconceptions and just think of the possibilities of the unknown and outer space and the future, and what wonderment you can see if you're just out traveling. And I think that's why I really enjoy watching things like that. And when I watch, Felis Caddis or any of the episodes that Bill's done, I get that same sense of, it's just about what could be possible out there. Don't get bogged down in the details. Don't overthink it. Just let your imagination go and have fun while you're on the adventure. And I think I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, and enjoy the story. Don't get caught up so much in the details.
I think big budget movies anymore, they have to play it safe. So, so expensive. And you can't, do anything experimental or, fun, because you don't want to risk that.
Right.
That's a good word for it. It's just fun. And like even Star Wars, and I use this loosely with Star Wars being sci-fi, but they take it so seriously anymore that when I watch the most recent films, I'm like, visually it's incredible, but I'm not having fun watching this.
I think you had a good point about a lot of current sci-fi being very serious and kind of dark, depressing, whereas bleak. Whereas I think a lot from the era of sci-fi that the classic films, the classic Star Trek that came out of that period, it was very optimistic and lots of. Can you imagine how awesome it's going to be when we get to space and all the things we'll see and do? And
all the current sci-fi is just doom and gloom. All the horrible things that can happen to you in space.
Yeah. Let me ask all you guys to weigh in on this. When you watch a sci-fi series, do you prefer series that have like the season-long arc, or do you prefer more of an anthology type thing where each show's kind of a standalone and you can tune in and watch that, and then next week it's a different story? We'll start with Chris.
I don't have a preference. I could go either way. I do enjoy story. I do enjoy long arcs, but I think it depends on the story. So I like shows where I can drop in on any episode and just get into it. But at the same time, I also like shows where if the effort's put into it, and there's a story to tell, that they take the series to do it. Sometimes there's not a lot of different things to talk about, and sometimes there is. So I could go either way. It really just depends on the story. So I have been a big fan over the last few years of shows that were particularly each episode was a different story. And I've seen a shift to one season being an entire story arc, and I have actually enjoyed that quite a bit lately, but I don't know that I have a personal preference.
Okay.
I think I agree with Chris. Doctor Who's done back and forth. Stephen Moffat's era in particular, where it would have these threads that he would plant early in the season, and then maybe even a season or two later, he would tug on them and tie all these plot points together. But I'm watching my way through Star Trek original series for the first. Yeah, I know I'm way behind. And honestly, I love it because I can go back and there's episodes where I'm like, this episode was fantastic. This episode was fantastic. And I could just go back and watch them, and it's like revisiting an old friend.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about, well, I'm dropping in the middle of a storyline. It's, for example, the Gangster Planet episode, you could just pop that on and enjoy it for what it is.
Right.
And not have to worry about, well, what were they doing 2 episodes before, or where's this going? Not that I don't appreciate those things. The Deep Space Nine, when they got into the Dominion Wars and stuff like that, it really did add some gravitas to the series. But yeah, I'm kind of with Chris. I think I could go either way. It really just depends.
Yeah, that was a piece of the action, was the episode you're talking about there of Star Trek. Yeah, that was one of my favorites there. Especially, I think I never laughed my head off so hard as when Spock was trying to act like a gangster, and he says, "I would advise you to keep dialing Oxmix." He's talking to one of the gangsters on the planet there. Yeah, that just, I love that episode. How about you, Bill? What do you think? Do you like anthology series, or do you like more of a season-long arc kind of thing? Or
Mostly I like this the standalone series, but some series kind of work as an arc too, like Resident Alien. I really enjoyed following that through different episodes, and
right.
Even my series, I like to do it standalone, but there's a loose overall arc too that kind of builds towards. But I like them standalone.
Yeah. How about you, Linda?
I kind of with Chris, it kind of depends on the story. I feel like I get more invested in watching them though if it's a
season one
arc. Yeah, because it's too easy to say. I mean, if it's like, man, it's Sunday night, I gotta watch this because I want to know what's going to happen. Versus it's just an individual story, and I'm like, if I miss it, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Here's a question then for you, Linda. As somebody that sat through Game of Thrones, and I understand you can't do like individual episode arcs with that, but when you get that invested with something that's telling a story, and then they take liberties with it that might leave people disappointed, do you feel worse off at that point? Because I know, like, if I'm watching, again, Star Trek original series, and they have an episode where I'm like, well, that one wasn't so good, but it doesn't impact the characters. It doesn't impact the storyline. It's just that particular adventure was just kind of
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about it, but I know when I've watched TV series that do have overarching plots and they kind of drop the ball at the end, I'm like,
Yeah, that you have invested all of this time, but then you also learn that you don't, preconceive an ending. You don't think what's going to happen because it may not. So, yeah, it is disappointing when they don't. Well, for instance, using Game of Thrones as a perfect example, they rushed the end. They just went crazy at the end, and I think tried to get out as much as they could to call it the end. And I don't like that they just try to do it that fast.
I agree with that, and I feel like I don't know if some of that was because they decided the number of seasons they were going to have before they actually got to the end.
Yeah,
I don't understand that. I think you go until the story's done. Don't call the ending and then get close to the end of the runway and be like, oh no, we got to figure this out. We got to wrap things up. I don't think that's the way to go.
It was rushed. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Charles?
Yeah, Charles.
There's a lot going on now. I will tell you something, because that's a pet peeve. I do not like it when a series ends on a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, that's.
Oh yeah.
Which I just got exposed to with actually, I was starting to get a little ticked the other night because I realized, because of the pandemic, that I was just kind of happy to have shows to watch.
Yeah.
And I had stopped caring about the script in a way. So I've watched some shows where I couldn't even tell you what they are now because no one said anything interesting at all.
Yeah.
Right.
But you had something to watch.
But I had something, and I'm wanting to, and I just watched another show like that, and I went, well, that's not going to happen anymore because I'm not stuck at home now. So some of these series are going to have to, if they're going to maintain my time, they have to pick it up a notch again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to me, it doesn't matter if it's a series or a movie or whatnot, as long as they've left me. I like to be left with something, whether it's a quote, or if it's a new idea, okay, but that's kind of hard to come by.
Or some moral thing, moral lesson.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Star Treks. The originals were always fun because even if they were cheesy, they were probably at the time novel moral concepts.
Yeah.
And so that was always, those are always fun to watch just because of that.
Right. Cool.
But yeah, I'm a little worried we're being overwhelmed with the Netflix and stuff with just stuff that's I'm seeing stuff now that's like I remember it was, I think it, oh God, which was, it was South Park making fun of the Family Guy, right? Where they had like a porpoise was choosing the plots.
Okay.
And I've seen a couple things on that have come by Netflix, and that's what it looks like right there. It looks like somebody just threw something at the dictionary.
Right.
Right. And we're just now we're gonna have skunk people take over the world.
Skunk people. And that's gonna stink.
Or something, yeah.
Oh, Linda with the pun.
Well, constant exposure does result in a certain degree of
contamination.
Contamination.
Yes. All right, Audie, how about you?
Yeah, I like the long arch as far as character development
Yeah.
and build on the plot. Like the first Next Generation, first season.
Yeah.
It took me like 5 episodes before I even got interested in it.
Yeah.
Because they had to.
It's
really
work to
work
do
on
to
some
build
character
your interest.
development.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, they also had same thing, Next Generation. They had standalones. Some of them were just awesome.
Yeah.
And other ones that I thought they could have just left that one out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Seth?
I agree with Chris. Like there's a lot to love about the one-off episodes, but my brain kind of needs them to not be completely disconnected from one another. So if something happens in one episode that affects a character, like their kid dies or something, in the next episode, I don't want it to be like, oh, hey guys, life is great. And nothing bad has ever happened to me before.
Yeah, right.
Like that'll trip my author trigger.
Actually, I want to throw something else in here.
Yeah.
Because and this is for me, it's a positive. For some people, it might not be. But I realized I was seeing the death of something with the way shows are presented now, where you can watch them whenever. Which is, I'm not seeing the Christmas special.
Oh, they still do that.
Do they for some of them? I haven't seen a Christmas special one.
Yeah, it used to be right when you get around to the holidays, you have a special.
Yeah, or if you missed it, you had to watch it in July.
Supernatural.
Doctor Who's kind of big on the Christmas special, right?
Well, that tends to be when they regenerate the Doctor. That's just kind of been tradition forever. I think there's rumors that this might be Jodie's last year as the 13th Doctor, and then I wouldn't be surprised if they regenerate on the Christmas special, and then you get a brand new Doctor again already.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do a Christmas special, Bill?
You probably could do a Halloween special though.
Oh, that'd be fun, especially with the black cat. That'd be perfect.
Yeah,
maybe a short, like a 5-minute Halloween short.
I was actually thinking of doing some really, shorts. Just that would take as long to film, and real specialized, something like that.
So
nice.
to kind
You
of
could resurrect Schrodinger's cat.
There you go.
For an Easter
Hey,
show.
she's still here. This is Schrodinger.
Oh, okay.
Resurrected already.
Yeah, there we go.
Freeze
I think
erected.
it's possible with my series, so I'm willing to try anything.
Nice.
That's the spirit.
To kind of finish out my thought, what I do like about series that have a set story, even if you have to watch it week to week, I find that with series that are episode by episode, if they survive and they're popular, they go on that's far too long for the series. Like X-Files, it kept going on even after they'd lost Fox as a character.
Yeah.
And had to you start replacing characters, and it's never quite good enough when you keep trying to keep stuff fresh,
Rekindle
on
that
something that's
magic
been
or
around
whatever.
for a
Yeah.
decade.
Right.
I mean, so I like with I mean, it even happened with Babylon 5, even because they had to come up with an entire new season on the fly. They lost characters, and that final season just wasn't as good. But those first 4 seasons were really good because J. Michael Straczynski had a story, he had a plan, and it was for 4 seasons to tell his story.
Right. All right.
Or
Well,
actually, I think it was actually for 5 seasons. They found out they weren't going to get a 5th season, so they crammed everything they could into the 4th season.
Yes.
And then they found out they were going to get a 5th season and
It's like,
had to stretch.
Real fast. There's one glaring example where they mixed those formats, where they had an episodic series, but then they threw some continuity in it. So I grew up with the Transformers cartoon, and it was very episodic. Season 1 episodic, season 2 episodic, and then the animated movie came out. And the animated movie, they killed off almost all the characters in the first 10 minutes of the film,
Oh my God.
including Optimus Prime, and then reintroduced a whole bunch of new characters. Season 3,
That's like a
which was
reset.
also episodic, came out. But the big difference is they took the movie as canon. So if you didn't get to see the movie between season 2 and season 3, the entire cast changed. You were given no explanation, and it went back to episodic format.
Well, I mean, that's partially because they're selling toys.
Well, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the Transformers was just a long form commercial.
Yeah, it worked. I've got a bunch of them.
I know, and I've seen them, and I'm so jealous. There's no way I'm going to be able to convince Katie to get me some of those Transformers that you've got.
Can't you
It's
3D
better
print
to ask
some?
forgiveness than permission.
Oh, don't start
I've
that.
seen the price on some of those, and no, it's not.
Can't you 3D print some?
You can actually, but like you're printing you have to be very, very precise. Because you have to have all these little parts that you print absolutely perfectly.
So it all fits
Wow.
together. And
Actually, Seth, there's a guy that's been creating large scale transformable, like MP scale Transformers you can 3D print. I'll send you some of the STL files. You might get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I might.
All right. Well, it's been a great episode. I want to thank Josh Caito and Bill Hedges for joining us. And also, Bill, thanks again for the wonderful tour and the hospitality yesterday, showing us around and letting us do our, yay.
Yeah, quick, before we do final sign off.
Yeah.
Bill, once again, where do we find your stuff and the Cosmic Cat episodes and contact information if people want to see the stuff you've built out there?
I think it was
I
the
do have-
website.
I do have a YouTube channel with all the episodes and other stuff on it, but one of the links to the website is CosmicFilmStudio.com, and then that has links to not only things about the studio and films, but other things I'm interested in too, like Lost in Space or astronomy or anything.
All right. Well,
Also, some of the other things that have been developed in Lyons, like the Storefront Theater.
we will make sure to include links to those in the show notes this week. So look for them down below the doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo, that's what it's called.
All right. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon, Bill.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your visit the other day.
Well, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thanks to Josh, too.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
Josh.
Happy to pop in.
And we will catch you all on the next show. Until then, be safe out there and keep watching the science fiction. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.